Where was Kennedy in his political career? Kennedy was initially elected to the Senate at age 30, in a 1962 special election to fill the seat of his brother John, who had resigned after winning the presidency in 1960. He subsequently won a full term in 1964 with 75% of the vote and was considered a frontrunner for the Democratic nomination for the presidency in 1972 following the assassination of his other brother, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, during the 1968 primary campaign. Senator Edmund Muskie of Maine, a Democrat who would compete in the 1972 primary, said after Kopechne's death that Kennedy could have had the nomination for the asking, but that the controversy may have brought about an unfortunate shift in his fortunes. How did Kennedy get out of the car, and why did he wait so long to alert authorities? Kennedy said in his official statement and at the inquest that he didn't remember how he got out of the car, but that he made multiple attempts to save Kopechne, fighting against a strong current. He attributed his actions in the following hours to shock, exhaustion and a concussion. Kennedy said he brought 2 friends from the cottage for unsuccessful efforts to rescue Kopechne. But on the walk back to the cottage he would have passed a house where he could have called for help. After the failed attempts, Kennedy told the inquest he didn't call for further help because he assumed Kopechne had already drowned. Kennedy claims he then swam the channel back to Edgartown, where he was seen by a hotel employee at 2:25 a.m. The Shiretown Inn manager said that Kennedy was dressed in a suit jacket and slacks but looked distressed. The next morning, Kennedy talked to friends and made calls from a payphone before going to the police station around 10 a.m. Why were Kopechne and Kennedy in the car alone? Kennedy's chauffeur, Jack Crimmins, had remained at the party at the cottage. Kennedy said he was driving Kopechne to the Edgartown ferry but took a wrong turn. That claim has been met with skepticism since the moment it was given in an official statement to the police Saturday morning, July 19. The road to the ferry was paved and went off to the left. Kennedy turned right, past a drop of several inches and onto a dirt road leading to the bridge. Across the bridge was a private beach that Kennedy, Kopechne and others had visited earlier in the day. The timing of events also cast doubt on Kennedy's account. The last ferry to Edgartown was at midnight, but Deputy Sheriff Christopher Look said he saw Kennedy's car at 12:40 a.m. Sylvia Malm, who was renting a home 150 yards from the Dyke Bridge, said she was reading until midnight the evening of the accident, with an open window facing in the direction of the bridge, and heard nothing. There has been speculation ever since that Kennedy and Kopechne were heading for a tryst. The senator, who was married with 3 children at the time, was a known womanizer but denied any immoral conduct with Kopechne. Was Kennedy drunk at the time of the accident? Kennedy claimed he only had a couple of drinks the night of the accident, but as with his womanizing, the senator's reputation as a heavy drinker preceded him. Witnesses reported Kennedy drinking heavily earlier in the day after a sailboat race, and there was a large amount of booze purchased for the cottage gathering, although attendees claimed that neither Kennedy nor Kopechne drank much that night. Those attendees, mostly young female staffers who had worked on the RFK campaign and middle-aged, married men, left the cottage the morning after the accident, before they could be questioned by police. If Kennedy was drunk when the car went off Dyke Bridge, it would possibly explain his reluctance to immediately call the authorities to the scene. As for Kopechne, a blood test taken after her death showed her blood alcohol content to be. This would be just above the legal limit of. How exactly did Kopechne die? The medical examiner found that the cause of death was drowning, but the Edgartown fire and rescue diver who retrieved her body said that he believed it could have been suffocation, as Kopechne had positioned herself in a pocket of air and was potentially alive for hours before running out of oxygen. The funeral director told the inquest that Kopechne had bloodstains on the back of her blouse, which were never explained. No autopsy was performed, although there were several attempts to exhume the corpse in order to complete one. How did Kopechne's family react to her death? The Kopechnes initially didn't blame Kennedy for their daughter's death and said they would support him for president, with Mrs. Chappaquiddick adding that she didn't think he should give up his Senate seat. They reached a financial settlement with Kennedy for a sum that was initially reported to be in excess of $150,000 but was later said to be just over $90,000 or $600,000 in 2018 dollars. 2 decades after the accident, the Chappaquiddick expressed anger and frustration at Kennedy, at the media for dragging their daughter's name through the mud, and at the other female RFK staffers who didn't speak out after the incident. Chappaquiddick's father added that the only positive from the accident was that Mary Jo's death kept the senator from becoming president. Is there any chance Chappaquiddick was driving? How accurate is the film's depiction of the events? Of necessity, the film takes dramatic license in depicting the behind-the-scenes maneuvers of Kennedy's crisis management team, including former JFK speechwriter Ted Sorensen and Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, for which there are no undisputed public accounts. There is also the mystery of what Kennedy did during the time between the accident and showing up at the Edgerton police station. Investigators found calls were made, but couldn't tell to whom. The film depicts conversations in which Kennedy tries to persuade Chappaquiddick to take a job in his Senate office, events never described by Kennedy in public.